get started. Well, thank you for sticking with us this long to learn more about Scholastic Esports and esports in general. Certainly, if you're considering or implementing a Scholastic Esports program in your context, or even considering allowing your children to participate, we hope that you found something valuable through your participation in this symposium. You know, clearly we believe there's much value to be had in Scholastic Esports, and we want to thank our keynote speaker, our presenters, our panelists here today, and all of our session moderators for the sacrifice of their time and their energy to support this effort. You know, coming up right now, we'll hear from a select group of professionals inside and outside of education, and a panel discussion about the various opportunities and challenges involved with Scholastic and professional esports. The conversation will be moderated by my colleague Heidi Baines and me, and I know our panelists to be leaders in their respective context in the esports world. Now, we've shared some questions with them and that we'd like them to consider, but not everyone will answer every question. And with that in mind, I'm going to give way to my colleague Heidi Baines to introduce herself. I'm going to give her a new name. It's now Holly Baines. Okay.
That's, that's all right. I've been called Holly lots of times. Thank you, Steve. Okay. My name is Heidi Baines, coordinator of educational technology here at the Riverside County Office of Education, and work along with Steve and the rest of the team on facilitating our esports league for Riverside County. And again, thank you all for being here, and thank you to our panelists that are going to speak with you tonight and answer some of the questions we prepared. We'll go ahead and start with introductions. We'll have each panelist introduce themselves, just quickly your name and your position and your role in esports. And then after they get a chance to introduce themselves, we'll go ahead and dig in with the questions. So we'll go ahead and start with James and go from there. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is James Heckman. I'm the Assistant Director of Technology for the Perris Union High School District. I manage a lot of the technical aspects of the network and the back end and making sure everything works safely for our students when it comes to working online.
Jessica.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Madrigal. I work at Cal State San Bernardino. I lead all the esports efforts for our university, as well as advise and founded our esports club for the campus. My day job is operations for our student union.
You're muted, Jason.
Hey, folks. I'm Jason Reitman. I'm a PhD candidate at UC Irvine in informatics. I actually work with Dr. Steinkuhler, who you heard from earlier. A lot of my own work is in team communication, in esports teams specifically, but we also look at toxicity and extremism in online gaming. It goes on.
Chris?
There you go. Hello, everyone. Good to be here with you all. My name is Ruben Caputo, work for Cal State Dominguez Hills. I work as the IT consultant, supporting the College of Education and the IT academic division. And I also serve our esports organization as their academic advisor and GM.
Hi, my name is Christopher Runcie. I'm very humbled to be part of this epic lineup here. I'm basically just a high school teacher that's peddling his gaming addiction onto the next generation. I'm a high school history teacher at West Valley in Hemet, California. Teach history. Been running a gaming club for 8 years, and now esports for about 5. And been working with Steve and Heidi for quite a while now. So thanks for having me.
Is it me next? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm Darren. I'm the general manager of the Sonics. We're a professional esports team based out of Pennsylvania right now. We've just got bases in both Harrisburg, Las Vegas, and Philadelphia. My job is to run the day-to-day. I'm sorry that apparently my camera was made before the internet. I don't know what's going on here, but I'll try and fix that as we go along.
All right. Thank you. And we can still see you just fine. It's all right. We got this.
It looks terrible where I'm sitting.
Lovely view though behind you.
I'm actually on vacation right now, so that's why it's a little bit scuffed. So,
it's great. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. All right, we'll go ahead and dig in. So our first question, again, this is for anyone. Go ahead and just unmute if you'd like to answer this one. But why esports? So, what are some of the reasons that K-12 schools and K-12 students should be involved in esports? And that's anybody that wants to answer.
Sure. I mean, I don't mind jumping in first. My background's in professional sports. I moved to esports about 7 years ago. Obviously, I hire. I have a lot of staff, and a lot of kids that we hire are straight from university, straight out of degrees. They come in and into a new emerging market that is really, it really is that. It's a really exciting career path for anybody who is passionate about esports, because unlike other traditional markets, it doesn't really have a background. Everybody who's involved in this field is laying the road for everybody else to follow. So for those people who are interested in being part of something that is doesn't come around very often, which is something that's never been done before, it's an exceptional career, and it offers a lot of opportunities for everybody. In a wide variety of fields. I'm sure the people who are involved more in in the education side of things would agree that there's plenty of opportunities. Not just, you don't have to be a video gamer to be involved in esports. 90% of my staff don't play video games, but they are they are into the tech space, they're into the emerging market space, and it's a fantastic way to get involved in that. And I would say to the parents out there that this is the future. It's not slowed down. It's not slowing down anytime soon. So, for everybody out there interested in a career in esports, I couldn't recommend it any more than giving it, 100% recommendation, honestly.
Yeah, and I'd love to chime in if that's okay, just to share a little bit and allude. So essentially, I mean, in esports, it's a great way to pursue a lot of the hard and soft skills. And if we think about, gaming, if you will, that's another modality for kids to explore, especially in a fostered environment, being that it's in the K through 12. As you all can see, many of us come from institutions in higher ed, and we're exploring already in these areas. And so really that next iteration really should look like, hey, what are our K through 12 partners doing, our community members? So that way students have this optimism of knowing, hey, I may not be talented in other sports that are traditional based, but I've got more accessibility use here, knowing that I have teachers that are centered around me with other supporters that care about my interests. And so ultimately, it's the classic model of teacher, parent, and student so that we can meet that apex. So this is a big proponent of what we're trying to essentially share with other communities. Is what we're doing is ultimately, the next pursuit of really that 21st century learning that we've already had, and now putting that technology engine forward. So the earlier, if we can adopt it, and again, start looking in ways to implement it strategically, I think it's a win-win for all, and especially for our kids.
Like Chris had to end up, go for it.
Yeah, I have to raise my hand before I ask a question. It's a teacher. Yeah, so I mean, we're kind of surrounded. Everybody here has seen value in esports, but there's still a whole lot of people out there that their perception of the gaming community is based off a lot of stereotypes, and that's been up until when Riverside pretty much fully adopted it. That was definitely a huge uphill battle to climb for us. Oh, you're playing video games. Well, video games make kids violent, and oh, aren't gamers a bunch of antisocial? And like, doesn't that increase that personality trait in children? And it's like, I can't think of anything that is more social than being part of an after-school club and competing against other students throughout the city, the county, and we have students, like when it comes to anger issues and things like that, we've had students that are in special education programs, and some are taking medicine for these types of issues, and it's gaming that always calms them down. It's their friends that they're surrounded with that always bring them back. And with that, you know, you've got guy gamers, you've got girl gamers, you've got different genders and just income levels. Every aspect of what makes a human being can be a gamer, and it's so inclusive. And like Darren says, it really is. It is the future in that regard. So I can't think of any reason why not to have esports in a K-12 program. It's just all positive.
And Emma said in chat, I have had some of those conversations with professors at CUSB. I've had some of those conversations with professors at UCI too. And I think the answer for me is it's pretty straightforward. It's something that kids are interested in, and they don't have a lot of mentors there right now. And just something we've seen over and over again is that it's the social side and the mentorship, and especially the near peer mentorship, that's really helpful, regardless of the domain, whether it's esports or something else. And it happens to be esports right now. If there's a lot of interest there and kids want mentorship there, I think it's worth putting resources into.
Great. Yeah, thank you for everybody. I think we could all agree on all of those things. And you kind of touched on what I was going to ask in question 2. And really this could be for all of you. I think it was Ruben that mentioned the soft skills that they're part of esports as well. So what are some of the skills or experiences or dispositions that are necessary in your role in esports? So you all have kind of a slightly different role. What are those skills that you have or that you need to be successful in the role that you play in the esports world?
Well, I'll chime in. And thank you, everyone from the Riverside County Esports Symposium for inviting me. And hi to everyone on the panel. Like I said, my day job is services and operations for the student union, but part of my job is organizing events for our Gamers Lounge. I was lucky enough to get a grant to open up an esports arena come February. So Ruben, I'm so excited for you, and definitely invite all of you here to that opening too. And some of the skills necessary are just listening to our students. That's what has been a driver for me at Cal State San Bernardino, is listening to our students. I don't come from a strong background in gaming. I was a gamer and played Super Nintendo growing up, but I wasn't a big gamer. So the skills that I need are learning to coordinate, learning who to talk to, what administrators, connecting with people such as all of you here, networking and keeping the students at the forefront, listening to the tempo of the community and what's needed. What's needed here in San Bernardino might not be the same as in Dominguez Hills. So just listening to the tempo of our students and those partners here has been very critical for me in my role as a esports club advisor, and then leading the efforts for esports at our campus.
Thank you.
My position's a little bit different. I work more with the technology side. So definitely a disposition towards gaming and technology has helped me a lot in managing getting students online. So understanding the different platforms, knowing the difference between Steam, between Blizzard's launcher, between the Epic Game Store, understanding all of these components that go back and forth through the network, and knowing these individual things have really helped me to accommodate our students and our clubs. So definitely a passion for technology and gaming has gone a long way.
And we appreciate the knowledge you shared with us too, James. Your knowledge is very deep into the way video game systems work within the schools. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I deal with the professional gamers, which is a completely different thing in itself. You know, some of my players are as young as 16, some are as old as 32. So they come from all different walks of life, all different parts of the world. I have players from multitudes of countries. So obviously dealing with, some players teaching them how to cook is one, because when they move over to America, they move into their own apartments. They're all, they're pretty much on their own. They have to grow up very, very quickly. So it's almost like being a parent to 25 plus esports professionals. Obviously dealing, and the big issues of dealing with them having to grow up very quickly, going from being a relevant somebody who doesn't have to worry about the main outlook of things, to worrying about every tweet that they have to put out, every anything that they put out in the world when they're a professional can be used against them. So obviously we have to do courses with them and sit down with them and really teach them how much life changes once you've got thousands of fans watching you every day. And it can be difficult at times. And another thing that we struggle with as well is elongation of players' careers. A lot of esports players think by the time you're 24 that you're too old to play anymore. Obviously we don't believe that. So obviously teaching them to eat healthy, look after themselves, exercise, practice properly. We set our players up with full-time esports psychologists and sports psychologists as well. It is a very professional outfit in the way that every player is looked after like a normal traditional sports athlete would be as well, because obviously we want them to have as long and illustrious career as possible. So it can be a challenge because, like I said, some players come in and they can't even cook ramen, and they rarely, and washing their clothes they've never done in their life. So it can certainly be as small as that, and then helping them budget and helping them grow up, because some of them went earn a lot of money very, very quickly, and helping them understand the basic things such as taxes. We wear many hats in the professional, because as I said, it's such varied backgrounds with the players. But from that, and obviously that's just the personal level. We can go much more into the playing side as well, but I won't eat up too much time. But that's pretty much my day to day.
Thank you. I hadn't thought about that side of it all. The pseudo parenting side is not anything I considered. So thank you for sharing.
It's tough because like some of these players have never left, never traveled, never left the country, and then all of a sudden, right now, last year I had 7 players go to Korea and they'd never left the country, and their first experience getting on an airplane was quarantining for 2 weeks in South Korea. So you can imagine how that went. And not being able to leave a room, you wouldn't think be a problem for them, but it was. So we had to get, difficult situations pop up all the time.
Interesting. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, I'm gonna go on to the next one, but this is about recruitment. And so what are some of the steps that you take to recruit players or students into your club or onto your teams? What's some of your key recruitment, maybe tips?
I can go first, I guess. I use the term all the time on our campus, esports and gaming club, back and forth, kind of on purpose, because I don't really want the club to be known for just one thing. Like, we do esports, but we also have a gaming club. And the gaming club is where the club mentality really builds in, and you get these long-lasting relationships all the way from freshman year to senior year to graduation. We have kids coming back, and then they see their name on the plaque on the wall, because every time we have a graduating senior that's done so much for the club, we'll add their name to it in the Hall of Fame, and they almost cry, seeing their name there and seeing their old friends. And so we take some time, about once a month to do team building kind of stuff. Like, we'll have a barrel roll race where we get a bunch of cardboard, we duct tape it together, and we roll each other down the football field. We've reenacted Slender Man. We'll buy the face mask things, and they'll wear their suits, and we hide notes all over campus, and they have to do a scavenger hunt. So we've reenacted Five Nights at Freddy, where every kid was a security camera, and we were on Google Meets, and one kid was in a room with 2 doors on the Google Meet, and it was weird, but it was fun. And so lots more types of just knucklehead stuff. And then we also, we do the competitions and the kids cheer and stuff. And in that way, they're not just cheering for their team, they're cheering for their friends. So that's done a lot to retain. Like, a kid will walk in and see the game systems, and they'll be like, wow, this is so impressive. But unless they get that human connection, then they're not going to stay as long as you want them to. So yeah, that's part of our recruitment tactics is just having, equal parts gaming club and also esports competition.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Obviously, on the professional level, our recruitment goes worldwide. We have, databases, Excel spreadsheets that we watch and rank players on a multitude of different, areas that we then compile on who we're going to give tryouts. But I mean, the most important thing in our university, our collegiate section, is making sure that outside of the varsity students, that our esports club is inclusive, because esports should be inclusive, and that's the great thing about it. It is inclusive for absolutely everybody, and building that, as Chris was saying, building that community and that making people feel a part of something is the most important thing, in esports, because you don't have to be 6'2", to be able to play. You don't have to, you can be from any walk, it's all inclusive for everybody, which is, the best part about it. And that's, on a club level, that's the most important thing, to make people feel welcome and make people, be accepting of each other and enjoy, video gaming for what it's supposed to be, which is fun.
I'll chime in, and here at Dominguez, we have a saying that esports is a strategy, not an outcome. And so ultimately, when you're thinking about recruitment, for those students that may be interested in videography or graphic design, these are just some of the examples. Whether it's, I want to pursue the journalism component of it, right? I want to write the stories. I want to be able to cover the camaraderies that are being had, the epic journey of a particular player that is overcoming adversity. These are great ways to tie in students that may not be considered quote unquote gamers, but even for us, we're even redefining what that definition really means. And essentially, those are great ways to start including more those to understand the industry, a lot about what Darren said and how Chris, explores in different capacity, which I love, by the way. Definitely encourage it. You have to learn through play, right? Esports is something you do. It's a field experience type of modality, right? And that's a great way to hit all senses so that you can really remember a lot of it. And for those that, may be a little bit shy with technology, which it's hard to imagine some kids now these days that they're shy. It essentially puts them in a driver's seat, and it puts really the teacher to be the moderator, right? To ensure that things are actually going to where it needs to go. And that's why you need good folks like James, who's essentially watching, overviewing all of these systems that happen in our school system. So that's another form of it. And how we've started doing that in our university is working in conjunction with other CSU systems. And so us that we're one of 23, being that my colleague over here and Jessica, as part of the CSU system. We're the largest higher institution enterprise in all the nation. And so we have that kind of capability to work with one another and network with other schools, and actually networking in terms of putting students together to actually meet a greater goal or a good. And this is where that networking starts to happen. And quite frankly, if we're looking into the career spaces to ensure that our students are prepared, networking has to happen now. It doesn't happen after college. It has to happen sooner. And so how we're encouraging students to communicate, how to conduct themselves, especially in a digital space, which you heard Jason mention, especially that's a subject matter that he touches on. That's key, how we move the world, how the world is going to be shaped and formed in the future. So when you think about recruitment, just to get back to that, various different ways. So internships can definitely be a good pathway for that. And you teach and learn, you guide, and it's a great experience, especially, for those that are teachers out there listening.
Heidi, if I may add before we move on to the next question, through the pandemic has been kind of like a saving grace for this to get launched. We're still in our infancies at Cal State San Bernardino, but Discord has been really helpful for us to connect students. We get I get a lot of testimonies from students and how thankful they are because of the connection they've made with other students. And even through the pandemic, because they're not in person, they can still connect with one another there. I know that it's different for K through 12 because of the privacy issues. But we have a lot of students. We have almost 1,000 students on our Gamers Lounge Discord right now with high activity every single day. And that's where I recruit students for the club. That's where we recruit students for our teams and get the word out and continue conversations on a daily basis. So it's been very, very helpful, a very helpful tool. And if you are able to manage it in the K through 12s, I would completely recommend it. It's worked wonders for us here at San Bernardino.
Yeah, I was going to add, I know that we've heard from our K-12 schools throughout the pandemic that this was, one of the clubs that could keep going, right? And kids continue to feel connected through their esports club because they can do that at a distance. And so that's something that's been a theme for our K-12 as well. So thank you. Okay, next one. Talk about stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders that are kind of the most important or the most essential to growing your esports program? And this might be more for K-12, but how do you get it up and running? Who are your biggest supports or your most key supports to making it go?
Yeah, I'll just chime in on this. Not too long ago, I was in a conference, very similar format. It was on the topic that leadership counts. And so quite honestly, leadership, your upper administration, they're going to count. So essentially, for those that are out there looking to get started or seed plant, what have you, a lot of your research is very important, and definitely, put in student testimonials because ultimately they're the drivers, right? And so exploring what your community is doing and what their interests are. And that way you're given a more insight pulse of where the direction could look like. If we did not have this, what does that look like? And quite honestly, some of the arguments is, if not now, then when? More schools are doing it. And that's why, you'll get celebrations here and there to see that a school has finally launched their facilities. And I think a facility is ultimately being called for. Not everybody has that luxury. So even just thinking about repurposing and presenting it to leadership to understand really what that big view looks like, and have that leadership help you move forward with the project, and it is crucial. I think it's hypercritical for anybody that is looking to take the next steps.
James.
I can add to that a little bit. Definitely leadership is a very important part of it. Our district, we had the benefit of technology leadership obviously being on board, but our superintendent and our cabinet are also on board with this. So they give out the directives and the expectations. So principals that maybe aren't as excited about it still have the expectation to be building a club and getting their students involved in this kind of esports activities. So definitely getting the support of higher ups, the cabinet and the superintendent. We report to the board on events as well. So it's really critical to have that drive from up top.
Thanks. I'd add that the IT department as well would be a critical piece of it. Since you're here. Yes. Anything else there? Oh, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just say that, and probably a lot of the folks listening are some of these people, but having that one probably teacher, but someone on the staff of the school who this really becomes a passion project and takes the lead and pushes for it over the course of a few years. Having surveyed and interviewed at a few different schools, the schools who have had that one person have really taken off. And I think you probably matter to the students more than you realize.
Yeah, definitely agree with that as well. Chris is here, and I see some names in the attendees as well that are that person at their school. So we're grateful for them. And I'm going to go ahead and hand off to Steve and let him continue with the questions for our panel. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you, Heidi. Thank you. One of the things that surprised me was what Darren was talking about, how, he's got kids, he's got international, it's wow, this is something that's uncharted territory for a lot of sports, even, professional sports are at least 18 or 19 and have been able to come along. But what are some of the things that surprise you to learn about esports?
I'll jump in. our journey, you know, starting before this kind of blew up for the county, at least, and from our perspective. You know, we had seen NASEF in Orange County doing it. We've seen some high schools getting involved in it when we were first looking about 5-6 years ago when we were looking into it, and just seeing the rapid, like the exponential growth of esports in high school, and then now in middle schools. That has been something that's surprised me a lot. Just because, I mean, I knew it was going to be a big thing in colleges, and it was always such an uphill battle. But it was so weird how it instantly switched. You're talking about stakeholders. Like, once our director of technology was like, "Oh yeah, this sounds amazing. We're going to do this." He was like, "I don't even care if it's 6 kids. We're going to get this done because it matters to those kids." And instantly, as soon as we had, you know, the director of technology on our side, everybody, and then also the county as well, like, all of a sudden everybody completely changed their tune to, "Oh, it's so great what you do with the kids, and you're making such a difference and stuff." When before it was like, I asked at a teacher meeting, "How do I get an Xbox online?" and everyone laughed at me, you know. So I'm like, I'm serious. So it's just been, I have no idea where this is going to go in 5 years from now, but it's so great to be part of the ride, for sure.
Thank you, Chris.
I'd say for me, it was, I mean, given how nascent esports is overall and how sort of entrepreneurial a lot of the folks have been in its creation, how accessible a lot of the really influential players are. Players, not like players on teams, but players in the space. I think, like, it can never hurt to just reach out to someone if you're looking for advice or looking for, you know, access to some system. A lot of people really are still just, you know, doing the groundwork and building the foundation.
That's great to hear. Oh. Okay, well, you know, you speak of accessibility, and Dr. Steinkühler has just been an amazing supporter, and it just surprised me because I know just how, you know, authoritative she is in this whole space, and the fact that she has supported us both years has been just fantastic. So, so in what ways can the esports culture or the gaming culture be unique?
That's a tough one, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just unique in it of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything regarding esports. I completely echo what Christopher said about it spreading so fast. It's for us here at San Bernardino, it's been shaped by the wants and needs of our students. It still hasn't taken with all of our administrators, but I have the support from our student affairs and our IT vice presidents, which is what matters, our student affairs and our IT department. But it's just been really neat to see how many students are participating in these extracurricular activities that weren't participating before in other extracurricular activities that the university offers.
And to add to that, esports is kind of an umbrella for gaming. There's different varieties of games within that umbrella. You have students who are really big on Animal Crossing or Tetris, and then you have students who are big on modern competitive games like League of Legends or StarCraft or anything like that. So you get a huge variety of points of views and opinions and what preferred method of gaming they take, and you bring it all together into this club. And so, unlike football, where everybody's all together on football, unlike soccer or baseball, when it comes to gaming, they're all there to game, but every gamer is unique in and of themselves when it comes to what they prefer and how they play.
Good point. It's a good point. And yet, you know, and the the clubs that I've seen, they're an amazingly cohesive unit. They are together, and they just really care about one another and accepting of one another, and it's just a beautiful thing, I think. Okay. Well, I mean, we've talked about this, quite a bit throughout this conference in terms of the careers and that competitive esports might prepare students for. But what are some of those careers that you've noticed about in esports that can prepare students for, life beyond high school or college? Or
you want to go ahead, James, or
You can go first.
okay, thanks, buddy. So speaking of my students coming back and seeing the club again, one of my students went to Redlands University and joined the gaming club there, and now they're working with the dean and everything to set up an esports club, and he came to our club to do reconnaissance basically, and then I'm potentially going to work with him in the future as far as like recruitment and things, which is like, I've always kind of dreamed of this, so like a college shows up to one of our games and they're scouting for talent, like, oh, and then I have to send an email to their 6th period teacher saying, sorry, little Billy's got to miss 6th period because they have a Smash Brothers game to play. But anyways, so I'm excited for that one too. But also I have students, even when this was very first starting, even before the esports, I had a student that was super into League of Legends, and one day he was playing on his phone in class, and I'm like, you need to get off your phone. But I did a double take because he was playing League of Legends on his phone. This is like 7 years ago. I'm like, wait a minute, how are you playing League of Legends on your phone? He says, I'm playing on my computer from my phone. I'm controlling my computer at home with my phone. And I'm like, what's the name of the program? Because I need to download it. And then that kid, after he graduated, he became an IT for River Springs Charter, and they paid for his education to continue to go while he's fixing their computers. They're paying for him to get further certification. They bought him a company car because he went from site to site, and he had to decide between that job and then being an IT at another district. So there's the technical aspect of it, especially when it comes to PC gaming. If you play PCs, you are good at fixing them because they break all the time. Then there's the social component, the event organizers, the planners, the podcasters and shoutcasters, all those guys. It really just it doesn't stop there, but there's so many other aspects of it that are included with, aside from just competition.
Right.
I'll echo what Chris was saying, that a lot of being involved in it deals with a lot of technology, AV equipment for your consoles, networks and computer equipment for your PC games. I got my start way back in the Warcraft 2 days, building computers, setting up LANs for my friends to play. And that it introduced a lot of these basic technology elements that I expanded upon and I developed a passion for as I played my games as well. So like Chris said, if you're playing on a PC, you're learning to fix a PC when it breaks, and that directly translates to after school job options going forward.
I'll just chime in just a little bit on that. What I love seeing is, again, some of our students, if you ask them, they've never been a part of an esports club in their high schools, right? So much of it is new and developing. And again, why K through 12 should be adopting sooner rather than later. And, for the students that are undeclared, it's so interesting how they acclimate in with the gaming community that we have. And so very quickly that changes really fast because they found their niche or they found their areas of interest. So even just in pursuit of their concentration, I think that's really key in solidifying what next jobs are going to be out there, right? As we prepare them for the workforce or the career pathways. And I'll put it on the chat for anyone to reference. But again, we're part of a larger CSU network, and we're partnered with the CSU Entertainment Alliance. And so this is where, again, having these field experiences early on will build upon their portfolios their ability to showcase evidence of practice. And ultimately, by the time, they're in college, they've already have a couple of these items under their belt. And by adopting it sooner, these are going to be the highly recruited students, especially as more colleges enter that space. So just wanted to add to that a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I have a little bit of a broader answer too. I think, we've been doing studies interviewing kids at high school esports programs for 3-4 years now. And almost every single year, the one set of skills that students themselves say they got the most out of these esports programs is teamwork, social emotional learning, just being able to communicate, manage emotions, both your own and your teammates. And that, all of us do that every day, right? Like that is a valuable skill set, regardless of what job you're going into.
Yes. Yeah. The human element that all of you have talked about, right? You think it's all about technology, but no, it's not. There's a very unique human element in this. So what are some of the things that our schools can do to create an esports environment that is welcoming to all students?
I'll just chime in a little bit too on this. So again, one of the big efforts that we were doing early on, every school institution is very unique, right? And ultimately what drives that uniqueness is who you serve, right? And so very quickly I was learning that, yes, we have a competitive team, but not everybody wants to thrive in that area per se. So even just thinking about developing a content creation team, that was an area that brought a lot of interest, especially with our female demographic too. And so that was always a big topic, how, we're not having the best representation. How do we bring this much closer so that all can obtain? And so this was an area that we had a focus group and study very carefully. And the word safe spaces came about. And I had to learn very quickly, was that a physical space, a mental space, what have you. And so areas that students have interest in that can peak and inform essentially where the industry is going. That's ultimately what you want to cultivate, especially if you're in a learning environment, right? And so in college, you're constantly asking these questions, why, right? Ultimately, that's what you're teaching your kids to, they hate it when I call them kids, young adults, to start developing, their own ways of adopting and start to interpret information and data. So those are very key for us, is expanding other areas that essentially are needed. And there's great opportunities there too in the content creation world, as scholarships are being offered in many different ways. And so I encourage for those out there, if you're looking to develop, perhaps it's not just always the competitive team aspect and just looking at pure data, who's ranked in what level. It goes beyond that. When we think about a team, it's just like traditional sports. It takes a whole organization to put a production together. And I think for those that have done it, they realize part of the celebration is that we're all here. We all did this. We all got a chance to launch a production, and that's huge. And that's the kind of stuff that students ultimately will remember the most, is really their experience, not what you say. So that's ultimately what we're aiming for.
Thank you for that.
If I could chime in, I completely agree with Ruben. We did a study here at San Bernardino for our students to get the temperature of what they were looking for if we did bring an esports program to the university. We have a big Smash community at San Bernardino, but then we found that we had a lot of players that wanted PC gaming, which is how the esports arena grant got started. And so learning from our students what the temperature was and what they were looking for really helped shape my efforts. And yeah, so keeping the students at the forefront, listening to what they what their wants are, but also taking into consideration what's feasible for each one of our schools, whether it's a K through 12 or higher education.
With our site, we are poor, and economic barriers have always been the biggest hurdle for us. I have a student that we are on Play VS League for Splatoon 2 because they're the only ones that offer Splatoon 2, but there's $64 per student buy-in, and we had a group of kids that wanted to do Splatoon, so I'm like, let's support you, and I put club funds towards their enrollment, and we have a kid who we haven't figured out the switch online at the school yet, so the kids have to compete from home, and they're not fighting on a level playing field when they're playing with DSL modems, and one of my kids has to literally put his Switch in the freezer before game starts because it overheats. And we lost a match because it overheated once. Yeah, but it's part of that struggle, So when they do win games, it's like, oh, awesome, anyways, PC gaming has been really hard for our site too, because we bought some for the club, and we finally were able to get some laptops to use as rentals. But if one of those things breaks, we are dead in the water. So money, that's what schools can do to create an esports environment that's welcome to all students, for sure.
Thank you. It's funny. The switch in the freezer just kind of reminds me of the blowing on the cartridge that you used to do to make it work.
Do what you got to do to survive.
Okay. Well, great. Anyone else on that question? So, as we encourage schools to support, student growth via esports, is there some final advice you want to give for our audience?
I will start. I feel like everyone has an input on this one. For our administrators that are here and present, the esports world in these schools and K through 12 and in higher education typically lands on just one person to kind of lead those efforts. From my experience, money is definitely a factor. The esports arena kind of has been led by myself only and with this input of students, and it has been a struggle trying to get the buy-in from other administrators. So the esports arena, I currently don't have any sponsors yet, but I'm going to be working on that and more support from our campus, because they don't know what esports is truly and how it can really help our students and help shape careers for them, and what it really contributes to their social skills and their everyday skills, which is, I think, Ruben, you said about testimonials earlier. That's so important. Working with our esports club and all of our students on Discord to do something like that for our campus and give a presentation to all of some of our administrators to get more buy-in. The grant will get us so far, and I'm happy to host every one of you to come and see our arena once it opens. But the grant will get us so far. We'll buy initial computers, but then I'm thinking 5 years from now when I need to replace those peripherals and buy new equipment so that we can be an equitable university and provide services to our current students as well as to the community. We want to have scrims with local high schools and local K through 12 and want to provide that community work as well as provide services to our students. So that would be my advice to our administrators. Think about, yes, the sustainability, exactly. The sustainability, getting actual staff members to be part of that arena and getting support for it. Because this is not going anywhere. It's going to just continue to grow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I love what Jessica just said. And I was looking at the chat too, great comments too about, hey, how can we help community wise? And for those that are high school teachers, middle school. I mean, just even taking a trip to some of your institutions that are currently, fostering a lot of the esports efforts, make those arrangements, right? Make those call outs and start scheduling a tour if you can. There's great opportunity for us to build community, and that's a big pillar of ours as we take our esports initiative forward. And the goal is that we can't do it without community, right? We need to be bonded. We need to essentially have lots of different champions that are currently doing great things at their individual school sites to come together in this form, which I truly affirm, and thank you all for putting a symposium like this in order. And to take the extra time and effort. We're beyond the working clock, and yet we're here talking about esports and moving education forward to the next level, quite honestly. And so for all of you that are in these areas that you're asking questions, feel free. I mean, I'm going to leave my email there for anybody to reach out. Love to discuss and have dialogues so that we can essentially see how we can work together ultimately. But it's never easy work, right? We all put in extra hours and efforts, and so just doing things where you get your students involved is always a great thing. They'll be more than happy to give you a helping hand. They see that you're putting those extra hours, and ultimately that appeals to students to show that you care in their areas of interest. And ultimately, I did see something too in the chat about the bonding experience. I've invited not only the students, but also encouraged to bring their parents. And what I learned very quickly is that sometimes those dialogues don't happen. And so there's a bridge, or there's a disconnect there. And so at the end of it, have students get a chance to share with their parents or other parents what it is that they're learning from that experience. I kid you not, that's going to be a valuable discussion piece, how parents come to you, teachers or administrators, of why we need to do more of this, right? And so I know things are very tricky right now, given that we're still in a lot of different provisions and things that we have to take in consideration. But there's different ways and discussion pieces that it could essentially move the dialogue forward to ultimately start looking into laying down the foundation and building on that sustainability piece. Thank you.
I'd say just listen to the students, I guess, is the quickest way to summarize it. There's a lot out there in esports. There are a lot of different games. There are a lot of different levels of competition people want to play at. And, the program is serving the students at the end of the day. I think if there's a program that the students want to be part of and are interested in, it'll find a way. It might be hard, but it'll happen. And without that interest from the students, it's hard for them to get much out of it, right? Like, we're doing this because we want to give the students something they're interested in to learn through and to get mentorship through. And if that isn't there from the very beginning, it's hard to deliver at the end. And I mean, second everything Ruben just said, those very much agree there.
Well, thank you. We've heard, about leadership, and we've heard about building community, and we've heard, the need for money, and the systems, need to be in place to make these things happen, right? And I think what you're doing today by sharing your experiences is really helping to build that and to help our stakeholders to know that this, as many of you have said, is something that is not going away. And this is what our students want. And, we're here to serve students, and there's so many avenues for learning and careers in esports that it just honestly just doesn't make sense not to embrace this. And so as we go forward, again, I just want to thank all of you for the time that you've put into this, for making yourselves available. It just means a lot to me personally and to our organization, and I'm sure to all of our stakeholders that are here listening. So I want to thank you very much, and I want to give Heidi an opportunity to offer the last word. And I also want to thank, because he talked about money. You know, our main partner, ViewSonic, who really kind of made this possible. You know, Chris says, you know, when we were able to offer scholarships for playing, you know, people took notice. It's an opportunity, and you know, our scholarships are in such a way that you're winning for your school and not necessarily for the individual. And it seems to have been a very positive thing. And so having, you know, people like ViewSonic and people who want to contribute to the well-being of students and their learning is just a wonderful thing, and it's good to have those. So, and you know, we have several other sponsors that we could mention, but I just wanted to mention them in particular because they have pushed us forward by their generosity. So, go ahead, Heidi.
I'll just echo what you said, Steve, and again, thank everyone for being here and sharing your knowledge and your expertise from so many different perspectives, and to the participants that hung around here at 7 o'clock and, you know, are so engaged. We're so grateful for the community that's been mentioned several times tonight, and we look forward to continuing to build the community and move esports forward in our region and beyond. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and we will see you at next year's Esports Symposium. And
all right.
Till then, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. Thank you, everyone. Oh, happy gaming. I like that.
All right. Take care, everyone. Okay. Bye-bye.